Chapter 27, Biker Hell. Through bouncing hail, which was on average about 12 millimetres in diameter, across a busy road, loomed a big building with a banner plastered over it, Motorcycle and Scooter Show. The hailstones died away, the last globules tapping my head and shoulders as I crossed over. Inside the main entrance, people were crushed up together. There was a person counter by the ticket desk registering the daily numbers. Today's figure was 19,997 and rising. I'd never seen such a crowd. It was mostly men in black leathers, with silver studs and black glossy orbs, helmets, on their head or under their arm. I felt as if I'd been beamed from Earth onto an intergalactic space station. Were they men or clones? They laughed, argued and shouted. I wasn't sure about them. They looked like the rough boys in our school who go round in gangs, and if you come up against them in the corridor, you had better turn and run away. These men seemed worse than those boys. But they didn't spit at me or elbow me in the ribs or call me a neek. They ignored me. So I queued for a ticket. Then I saw a team of security people standing by the barriers, checking hand luggage, sweeping people with handheld explosives detectors, like they do at airports and at the London Eye. Some people were made to empty their bags and pockets. What made me stare was what was written on the T-shirts. Kat and I had got it right. Frontline security. It was the same T-shirt as the one worn by the strange man, only this time I could see the missing letters. I scoured the faces of the guards at the entrance, but the strange man wasn't among them. I bought a ticket and presented it. One of the guards waved a bomb detector around my body and motioned me forward. As I went through a metal turnstile, the person counter clicked to a new daily number, 20,054. I stopped. T is letter 20 in the alphabet, E is letter number 5, and D is letter number 4. It was as if the person counter had registered me by name. 20, 5, 4. Ted. Perhaps it was my lucky day. Perhaps I would find Kat, and perhaps we'd find the strange man. And perhaps it would lead us to Salim. Perhaps nothing. As I went through into the big hall, I stared. Engines revved, tyres screeched, film trucks blared, lights flashed, music thumped. Everywhere was the smell of petrol and polish. The names of bikes were displayed on every stand. Hondas, Yamahas, Suzukis. One stand said, "Welcome to Biker Paradise." It was more like Biker Hell. The colours were chrome, black, electric blue. The noises were purring engines and throbbing drum beats. A giant screen showed motorcycle racers coming straight at you. Waving girls in black leather bikinis sat on bikes that hung from the air and went nowhere. I didn't know where to look. People kept thrusting leaflets at me and sticking stickers on my sweatshirt. One woman gave me a raffle ticket. It said, "Free to enter. Win a set of ladies' leatherettes." Whatever they were, I didn't want them. I wanted Kat. I walked among the loud stands. A man approached me with studded gloves and tattoos up his neck. He started talking to me as if he'd known me all my life. He used a lot of words I didn't know. GSX, disc brakes, Harley's V-Rod, VFR, Kawasaki. He paused. "Maybe you're the tornado type," he said. He put a hand on my arm and pointed to a model overhead with a silver picture on it of a swirling twister just about to touch down. "Hurrum," I said, my hand flapping. "You're right, it's the best," he said. "The creme de la creme of motorbikes. The one and only. I ran. Then an announcement came over the loudspeaker. "Come to the takeoff ramp in Hall 2 for the Freestyle jumper display. Hurry, the show starts in 2 minutes. There was a general movement in one direction. I found myself being carried along into another big hall. In the centre was a huge ramp. It looked like you would have needed mountaineering equipment to climb it. It stopped in mid-air like a road to nowhere. A terrific drone of an internal combustion engine started up. It turned over with a whirring noise becoming ever high-pitched. Then I saw it, a flash of chrome, a white helmet, a missile-like saw. A bike about to jump. It parted company with the top of the ramp. It continued its flight up. It almost grazed the roof. Then it came down and down. I had to shut my eyes because whoever was on it was sure to be smashed up and dead, and I didn't want to see it. The crowd clapped and cheered. I opened my eyes. The The bike had landed metres away. There was a bad feeling in my esophagus. My hands were over my ears. The driver was a madman. He pulled up, got off his bike and took off his helmet. Long blonde locks fell out. It was a woman, not a man. Male or female, depending on how you look at it. The audience gasped. Then there was more clapping, cheers, people jumped thumping their feet. The woman laughed, shook out her hair and waved a leathered hand in the air. She remounted her bike and zoomed back to the start. Another drone started, another competitor, another zoom, another crazy jump, freestyle, then another. On the last jump, a miracle happened. I saw Kat. She was only metres away from me, up front by the railing, staring up at the jumpers. Her eyes and mouth were wide and round like 3 flying saucers. I went up to her and pulled the sleeve of her fur-collared jacket. She didn't notice at first. I pulled it again. She spun round. Her eyes opened wider, then scrunched up, and her face folded up small and mean, and she bellowed so loud in my ear it hurt. "Bloody hell, Ted! What are you doing here?" Chapter 28. Meetings. "Kat," I said. My head went off to one side, even though Kat's voice was like a supersonic boom splitting my eardrum. I was glad, Mr. Shepherd says to remember to smile when you greet people, so I smiled. "Kat." Kat looked all around. Her voice dropped to a hiss. "Are you on your own?" "Yes." "Auntie Glo, Mum, they're not with you?" "No." "They're at home still?" "Yes." "You didn't give me away?" "No." She hugged me. "Go, bro." "So where do you think we are?" My hand flapped. I stopped it by holding it down with my other hand. "Not at Tiffany's, Kat," I said. "They think we've gone swimming." Kat looked at me, her head wagging like one of those toys that sit in the backs of cars. "Another lie, Ted. One of these days you'll be nearly normal." I told her about finding my way on the tube. How I'd cracked the missing letters. How I'd phoned frontline security and spoken to the temp. "I met her," Kat said. "I went round there in person. Her name's Claudette. She smokes Charisma cigarettes." "She mentioned you," I said. "She said you'd been looking for the same man, and..." "Kat." "What?" "That was a good lie you told." "Which one?" "The one about the asthma inhaler." "Yeah, I was proud of that. It worked too. She told me his name, Christy, and where he was. Then she told me all about her love life. She said she was bored as hell. She filed her nails, chewed gum and smoked all at once. And guess what else?" "What?" "She offered me a fag." I took it too." Don't me, Ted. I didn't smoke it. Not really. I had a puff or two, but it wasn't my brand. It tasted like cowshed." We walked round the first hall together. Kat didn't seem to mind me being there. Her eyes darted everywhere. She whispered, "Oh, what I'd do to have one of my own." She started picking up the biker language. Honda's VFR, Buell's Firebolt, Guzzi, she muttered, dragging me round the stands. I could hardly keep up. She pointed at the metallic paintwork, admiring the biggest, fastest models. She was in biker's paradise. I was in biker hell. Why, I wondered, couldn't we have tracked the strange man to somewhere more tranquil? A flower or antiques show, maybe, or somewhere really interesting like the Science Museum. Then we saw him. Him. He was standing 6 metres away, in the same clothes he'd worn on the day at the London Eye, minus the jacket, talking into a 2-way radio. Kat dragged me behind a stand. I tugged away from her. "Don't let him see you," she hissed. "Why not? I'm handling this one myself." "But..." "No buts. I'm coming too, Kat." "No, you're not. That's an order." "An order?" "Yeah, I can give them, because I'm older." "I'm wiser, you said." "Rubbish." "You did, Kat. You said you needed my brains." Kat's nostrils quivered. She does that when she's about to erupt like a supervolcano. Then she forgot and gripped me instead. "He's walking this way," she whispered. He was right in front of us. Kat stepped forward. "Excuse me, sir," she called. The man was talking into his radio. He turned round, saw Kat, put up a hand and went on talking. We waited. "Over and out," he said into the radio. He stared straight at Kat. "What can I do for you, young lady? Are you lost?" Then he smiled. It was a smile I didn't like. One eyebrow went up, his head tilted. He looked Kat up and down. Then he noticed me. My hand flapped up and my head was off to the side. His eyes opened wide and his mouth parted slightly. Then he looked over his shoulder and shifted from one foot to the other. A second later his face changed back to a smile, a nanosecond flicker. "You lost?" he repeated. Kat smiled back. "No," she said. "On you go then. Have fun." "We're not lost," Kat explained, "but we know somebody who is." "Oh? We thought you might be able to help." "If you've lost somebody, go to the information desk. They'll make an announcement." "He didn't get lost here. He got lost 2 days ago, at the London Eye." The man shrugged. "So?" "I mean, really lost. The police are looking for him. It was just after you came up to us and gave us that ticket. Remember?" The man stared at us for a long time. I looked at his eyes. They narrowed slightly. The pupils seemed to get smaller. "The eye," he said. "So that's where I've seen you before. I never forget a face." "You remember?" "Now I do. I'm frightened of heights, you see. I get terrible vertigo. You're the kids I gave the ticket to, aren't you? But I don't know anything about your lost friend. Fancy our meeting up again. Coincidence, huh?" I was about to tell him about the letters on his T-shirt, but Kat elbowed me, which means shut up. "Yeah, coincidence," she said. "Do you like motorbikes?" "Yeah," Kat said. "They're great." "It's a fantastic show this year, best ever. Did you see the freestyle jumps?" "Yeah." "Did you like them?" "They were awesome." "If I were you, I'd go back to Hall 2. They're giving lessons on the lighter scooters in a minute or two." "Really?" "You'll be zooming around the cones in no time at all." "Honest?" "Sure thing. Off you go. Talk to my mate John in there. He'll get you on a bike first if you mention me." "Hey, thanks." "Don't mention it. I hope you find your friend." He saluted us with his radio, smiled and walked off. I said. Kat's head went off to one side. Her face fell. "Hell," she said. We stood together, jostled by passers-by, and watched the strange man disappear into the crowd, just as he'd done at the London Eye. "Dead end," Kat said. "I might have guessed." "Guessed what?" I asked. "It was the road to nowhere." "The road to nowhere," I repeated. "Stop repeating everything I say. Let's check out those scooter lessons." She dragged me back to the second hall and found the man called John. I watched as she mounted a scooter, helmeted. She rode away. She wobbled, swerved, revved and giggled. My hand flapped up every time she turned, because it looked like she was going to come off and break her neck. She wound round the cones and the gathered speed. I watched. I shut my eyes and put my hand in my jacket pocket. Then I thought. Salim vanishing, the police searching, Aunt Gloria wailing, Mum raging, Kat crying, me lying, the strange man, his face and eyes when he first saw us, the girl who did the first jump, vertigo and claustrophobia. My brain whirred like the bikes. I opened my eyes. Kat got off the scooter. She caved back the helmet. She came up to me, smiling with wide open eyes. "Ted, that was great. You should try it." I shook my head. I quoted the graffiti I'd seen on the tube. No way. "I've been on that bike and I've been around those cones, Ted, and do you know what?" "What?" "When I'm on the bike, that's when I can think." "Think?" "Yeah. I was on the bike and I couldn't hear the noise. The noises faded. I was on my own, really, on my own. All I could hear were my thoughts about Salim. And that's when I knew it, Ted." "Knew what?" "Knew he was lying. That man Christie. He was lying." I nodded. I had reached the same conclusion via a process of deductive thought. Our minds had met, which is a way to say that we were thinking the same thing at the same time, which was a rare thing between Kat and me. Yes, Kat, he was lying. Maybe it was because I'd become a liar myself that day. They say it takes one to know one. I'd known almost as soon as he left us that he'd lied. It wasn't so much what he'd said as how he'd tried to distract us from what we wanted to know. He was a mini Coriolis force trying to deflect us. There'd been another thing, a contradiction. At the London Eye, he said he'd decided against the ride because he was frightened of closed-in spaces, claustrophobia. Today, he said he was frightened of heights, vertigo. "We've got to find him again," Kat said, "and make him tell us the truth." "Yes, Kat, the truth. We're a team, you and I. Let's go, Ted." Chapter 29. Pursuit. But we couldn't find him. The exhibition hall was full to bursting. My hand flapped so much that Kat told me to shove it under my jacket. By now she was reverting to mean, mad Miss Catastrophe, and our minds were at polar extremes. We ended up back at the entrance. There were several guards on duty, but the strange man wasn't among them. Kat approached a woman guard who was in the middle of searching somebody's bag. "Excuse, miss," Kat said. The woman looked round, lips turned down. "What?" she snapped. "Do you know where Christy is?" "Christy? What's it to you?" "He's a friend. I've a message for him." "A message? An important message." "What about?" "It's private." "Private?" The woman gave the handbag she was searching back to the owner. He just radioed. "He says he's got a stomach bug. He's leaving for the day, which means me and my two mates here, we're on our own, right? And we've got no time to stand blathering to his friends, right?" "Right," said Kat. "With him, it's always the same. Sick this, dentist that, dead uncle the other. Never rains but it pours." Her lips went down. She shook her head. "Ha ha, just like his name. If you do catch him up on the way to the tube, give him a message from me. I'm sick of him being sick. He needn't bother coming in tomorrow. He's fired." "Fired?" I said, thinking of people being burned on the stake in olden days. "Fired, sacked, given the boot, take your pick." I stared at her, and so did Kat. Then Kat grabbed me by the sleeve. "Hurry, Ted." She dodged past the other people, exiting, dragging me with her. I trod on 3 people's feet, but they were big biker men wearing thick black boots, and they didn't notice. We were out in the open air across the lights, and I'd only just time to notice the weather. High strata cloud, fine sunshine, before we were in the tube station, at the ticket barriers, and we glimpsed the strange man walking towards the eastbound platform. "It's him!" squeaked Kat. "Hurry!" I took my ticket out of my pocket. My hand shook itself out so hard I dropped it. Kat screeched. I picked it up. The machine plucked it from my hand and spat it out on top. "Pick it up, Ted, pick it up!" I'd forgotten that the barriers don't open until you've retrieved your ticket. I picked it up and went through. "Run!" I ran after her, head off to the side. I saw her hurl herself onto a waiting train. The doors beeped, about to close. I stepped on and got trapped. It felt like I was being squeezed from 3 dimensions into 2. Kat heaved at the doors and yanked me in. Oof! She turned into a tornado, an unstoppable force. "He's in the next carriage down, not far from the door. I can see him," she said. "I'll keep my eye on him. We'll get off when he does." It was a rattling old-style tube train that screeched and jerked. We held tight to the bar as it took the sharper bends. Sloane Square, Victoria, Blackfriars, Tower Hill, Aldgate East. The tube destination said Upminster. Where are we going all the way out there? After Stepney Green, Kat stooped into a crouch like a tiger about to spring and dragged me into a stooping position too. "He's getting up," she hissed. The train braked. It pulled into Mile End and halted. There was a pause. Seconds ticked by. Everybody waited silently. A man opposite tapped his foot on the floor. With a swoosh, the doors opened. Kat grabbed me and flew off the train, almost knocking over a gentleman trying to board. "Sorry," she muttered, pulling me after her by the sleeve of my sweatshirt. She ran behind a chocolate machine. The strange man was walking briskly down the platform and up a flight of steps. "Now," said Kat. We emerged from behind the chocolate machine. "Don't run," Kat said. "Saunter." "Saunter?" I said. I'm not good at sauntering, but I did my best. We sauntered down the platform, up the steps, through the ticket barrier, to the street entrance. Kat spotted him across the street. We crossed too, and did some more sauntering behind him. He never looked round. His hands were in his jacket pockets, and his head was down as if he was having a long train of thought. He paused at a corner by some traffic lights, and outside a pub called the Falcon Arms. We stopped too. After a moment he went inside the pub. It was a large grubby building with big bay windows and no curtains. It had a drooping white banner across the entrance saying "Open all day." Above it swung a sign showing a picture of a falcon perched on a branch with a mouse in its beak. You could tell from the way the mouse's tail was flying behind that in the picture there was a strong wind, maybe gale force 7. "What now, Cat?" I said. "We wait," Cat said. "Wait," I said. "As long as it takes. You know what Dad says?" "What?" "Pubs are black holes. People go in there and never come out again." "He's only joking, Ted." We stood on the street corner for 5 minutes. Cat got restless. The traffic streamed by. Cat said she felt like a sore thumb. Her thumb looked fine to me. I was just about to ask what she meant when she said, "I'm going to sneak up to that pub window, Ted. You stay put." I watched her sneak forward. She approached the bay window like a 00 agent on a mission to save the world. "He's propping up the bar," she hissed over to me. I imagined a bar on wobbly trestles, liable to fall down at any moment. She took another look inside. "He's got a long glass of dark brown stuff in front of him and he's hardly touched it," she reported. "He's watching TV on a big screen." She rejoined me. "He could be in there for some time. Let's cross and wait by the television shop near that bus stop. We can watch TV while we wait, and people will just think we're waiting for the bus." We crossed over by the lights and stared at the TV images in the window. People chatting, laughing, shaking their heads. A mid-afternoon game show. We could see but not hear them. We had 18 different TVs to choose from, but they were all tuned to the same channel. The game show ended and the news came on. 18 screens of soldiers in a foreign country, walking up dusty streets with heavy guns. 18 screens of African children with flies around their large eyes and no clothes on. You could tell they were starving. 18 screens of the Prime Minister giving a speech at a convention, his 2 hands shaking themselves out over the podium as he spoke, a bit like mine. Then 18 screens of our living room, our sofa, times 18, Rashid, times 18, Aunt Gloria with a white sweater, her orange lips and pale cheeks, times 18. She was talking. The cameras went in close. I could see the word, "Please." Cat gasped. "Auntie Glow," Cat squeaked. "Our living room. On TV." "I forgot to tell you," I said. "You forgot to tell me. They called in the press." "The press?" "They came in a big van." "They came while I was gone?" "Yes, Cat. And you didn't tell me?" "No." Cat rolled her eyes. "I didn't have a chance, Cat, not with all those motorbikes." We watched as the 18 shots of our living room switched to 18 pictures of Salim, the one of him in his school blazer looking neither happy nor sad, then to a telephone number for contacting the police. The story ended. The next was about the latest mission to Mars and showed a robotic probe collecting specimens from the planet crust. Cat stared at it without seeing it, chanting, "Our living room, on TV," to herself. I was interested in the pictures of the bare landscape, wondering what the Martian weather conditions were like and if life might ever have existed there. Neither of us noticed until it was too late. A firm hand grasped my shoulder and Cat's. I turned round. So did Cat. We were face to face with a strange man. He smelled of alcohol. His eyes were slits. His lips were pressed up tight. I knew what that meant. Anger. Extreme. His grip hardened on my shoulder so it hurt. "You again," he hissed. Chapter 30. The Road to Nowhere. Cat said nothing. I said nothing. His grip relaxed. He took a step back. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. "You followed me, didn't you? You followed me here from the scooter show." Cat nodded. "That missing kid, the one on the news, is that who you're looking for?" "Yes," said Cat. "He's not just some kid. He's our cousin, Salim." "Why do you think I had anything to do with it?" "Because it was right after you gave us that ticket. Salim went up the London Eye, but he never came down again." The strange man looked at us with one side of his lip up, the other down, his nose scrunched up, his eyebrows bunched together. "Crazy kids," he said, but he wasn't looking at us. He had his eyes raised upwards, as if we were floating above him in the air. "We're not crazy," Cat said. He looked down again and gave a strange kind of smile. "This cousin of yours, he went up the eye and never came down, you say?" "Yes." "Kids don't just vanish into thin air." Cat sighed. "That's what the police said." The man's eyes shifted round from her face to mine. It's serious, Kat said. The police are looking for him, and now it's all over the TV. I don't know anything about it. I told you before. Did you really just buy a ticket and not decide to use it? The man looked around and backed away. It wasn't exactly like that, he said. A bus crammed with passengers had pulled up at the nearby stop. A woman with a buggy struggled to get on. The driver stared at her with his lips turned down. The strange man glanced at the bus, then looked at us. "Here is this bird," he said, his words speeding up. The bus revved up. The wheels of the buggy spun as the woman seesawed it onto the platform. My hand was shaking itself out. "This bird in the queue, that's who I got the ticket from." "A bird?" I said, thinking of crows and pigeons. "A dark-haired chick, nobody I knew, I was just passing. She called me over and said how her boyfriend hadn't shown, and she didn't want to waste his ticket, but she didn't want to lose her boarding slot either. So she asked me to go over and give it to you." "Why us?" said Kat. The man shrugged. "I don't know. You were kids right at the back of the queue, I guess. She took pity on you." Suddenly he dashed over to the bus just before the driver shut the door. "It's her you need to talk to, not me, if you can find her." Then he gave a strange laugh. "Wait!" screamed Kat. "Don't go! Wait!" She ran after him, but the cross-looking driver shook his head at her and shouted, "Full up!" and shut the doors in her face. The strange man raised his palms upwards as well as his hands, and the bus jerked forward and gathered speed down the high street. "Hell!" said Kat. I said. "Shut up!" Kat shouted. The bus, along with the strange man, disappeared under a bridge. Kat clenched her fists and banged them on her thighs like she was a boxer fighting herself. Then she kicked a Coke can on the pavement into the gutter. "The road to nowhere," she said in a voice so loud that passers-by stared at us. "One great big bloody waste of time." On the word time, she crushed her boot down on the Coke can. "Road to nowhere." The boat stamped up and down. The Coke went pancake flat. "Nowhere." She burst into tears. "And which way's the tube? I've bloody well forgotten." Chapter 31. Tornado touchdown time. Somehow Kat found the way back to the tube. She stomped up the high street with me trying to keep up and my hand flapping, and then she asked directions from a man who was painting a railing, and he pointed a finger and she stomped on, acting as if I wasn't there, and I kept up after her until we got to the tube. We travelled the long way home in silence. Then we walked back up the main road and into our street, and she still said nothing, but she let me walk beside her now, and her lips were turned down, which meant she was sad more than angry. Outside our house she stopped and said, "We're for it, Ted. Our hair isn't even wet." I touched my hair confused, then I remembered. We were supposed to have gone swimming. "Maybe we can just sneak in," Kat whispered. She got out her key and was about to put it in the lock when the door flew open. Mum stood in front of us, barring the way. Her hair was messy and her eyes were wide as a volcano crater. She dangled our swimming gear before our eyes. Kat's bikini, 2 sets of goggles, my trunks. She spluttered, dropped the lot, hugged us, cuffed Kat around the ear and screeched, "You disobedient, lying, cheeky chit. And as for you, Ted, I'm shocked. I don't know what got into you writing that lie about going swimming. I've been worried, witless. Kat walked past her with her hands over her ears. "Don't you swan off like that until I've finished with you." I hovered in the doorway, frowning and thinking of swans gliding away in the pond in the dark. Then I mumbled, sorry, Mum, because I knew she was angry, but she didn't hear me. I picked up the things she'd dropped. She yanked me into the house and slammed the door. That Mrs. Hopper across the road's peering out again. God only knows what the neighbours think. TV crews, police cars. I've just about had it. Gloria's gone mental. You two vanish. Have you any idea how I've been feeling? Kat laughed. She kicked the skirting board and hooted. "The neighbours!" she screeched. She doubled over. "Typical grown-up crap." Her voice went up an octave and she crooned, "God only knows what the neighbours think. Is that all you care about, Mum? What the neighbours think? We've been trying to help, trying to find Salim. But you're not interested, are you? You don't want to know what we think, do you? All you care about is what the neighbours think. Salim might be dead for all you care." Mum stood eyeball to eyeball with Kat. I realised they were exactly the same height. "Don't you dare say that, don't you dare!" Mum's hand darted up as if to hit Cat hard on the cheek, but it froze about a centimetre off target. Her voice trailed off. The temperature in the hallway seemed to plummet to -30 degrees. Cat stared at Mum, her eyes round. "Go on, hit me," she hissed. Mum shook her head, and I could see tears falling down her cheek. Her hand fell to her side. I stepped forward. "Mum? Cat?" I said, but they paid no attention. Then Cat's lips started to wobble. She pushed Mum out of her way, wailing, "I hate you! I hate you!" She ran upstairs, tripping halfway. "Hate you! Hate you!" A bedroom door slammed, and something upstairs crashed. It was tornado touchdown time, or T times 3 in our house. This is my way of describing what it's like when people have really bad arguments and it is the worst place to be in all the world. Mum slumped on the bottom stair, head down in her hands. Her shoulders heaved and she made a strange noise. I'd never seen Mum like that before. "Oh no," she moaned, rocking herself. "Is there no end to this?" I wasn't sure whom she was talking to and looked around. I was the only one there, which meant she was talking either to me or to God. "Oh, God! Oh, God!" she said. So it was God, not me, and I was free to go. I decided to check out the weather in the back garden.